その226事件の時にドイツ大使館の中にお入りになりましたね。入りましたね。これは何の目的ですか？
向こうがね、226事件の実情を知りたいと、何か来て話してくれんかと。まさかそういう事件中だからドイツ外国人が入るわけいかないもんだから、私が一通真相といいますかね、知っとる範囲において説明に行ったわけです。私はあの時はむしろね、日本で死刑になりました。ドイツ人の、何しますか。ゾルゲが夫の秘書しとったんです。私はしょっちゅう裏門から誘ってすぐ大使館永田町ですからね、話行って、ゾルゲがそういう人間とは知らないもんだから、夫と二人でドイツ語でやっとったわけで、そんなのゾルゲみんな聞いとるわけですよ。
Osaki. Mr. Osaki, allow me to introduce Dr. Richard Zorge of the Frankfurter Zeitung.
Mitsumasa Yonai, the Asahi newspaper. Mitsumasa Yonai, the Asahi newspaper. Mitsumasa Yonai, the Asahi newspaper.
Richard Zorge, glad to meet you.
Mr. Osaki has better insight into the conflict with China than Konoe.
It was decided at the Imperial Conference negotiations with the United States will continue until the end of October.
Really?
Winter is near. Remember what happened to Napoleon.
Japan won't invade Siberia.
Mitsumasa Yonai, the Asahi newspaper. Mitsumasa Yonai, the Asahi newspaper.
In the 1920s, China was in a turmoil of civil wars, and all kinds of things were going on which the foreigners couldn't control by the old-style gunboat diplomacy. So I specialized on making trips into the interior to deal with problems that had come up with our Chinese agents. usually in the form of an illegal tax being levied by the local warlord, that kind of thing. Well, after I had a certain amount of experience at this, I went up one time by the railway to the edge of Inner Mongolia, to what was then Railhead. And there we had caravans coming in from Mongolia and from Xinjiang, Chinese Turkestan, even from Tibet. And it was fascinating to see them, these camels, plodding into the railway freight yards, kneeling down alongside the freight wagons, and the loads taken off and put straight into the wagons. The age of Marco Polo meeting the age of steam. The age of Marco Polo meeting the age of steam.
This situation led to the outbreak of the North China Incident. The Nanking government started a series of infringements in North China, resulting in the Japanese army to take security and self-defense measures to prevent further expansion of such events. On his way to the international settlement, First Lieutenant Isao Oyama, head of the Japanese Special Naval Landing Forces, was shot to death when his car was suddenly surrounded by members of the Chinese Peace Prevention Corps, who fired several dozen bullets at Oyama. The spot where he was shot was in the demilitarized zone established under the Shanghai Ceasefire Agreement. This incident was a well-planned act of provocation against uniformed members of the Imperial Japanese Navy. In all areas of Shanghai, Japanese residents, Chinese people, and other foreigners started to evacuate the danger zones immediately after the news spread. In the meantime, the Japanese military was mobilized as an emergency measure to protect Japanese residents and the nation's interests, but with only a small number of soldiers. Their intent was to seek ways for a negotiated settlement. The Japanese military tightened security against Chinese soldiers dozens of times bigger in size. The Chinese military showered machine gun fire against the Japanese military at 10 a.m. on August 13th. Finally, we had no choice but to fire back to defend ourselves. A little past 9 a.m. the following day, Chinese bombers suddenly flew over the headquarters of the Special Navy Landing Forces and launched an airstrike. Then the Chinese started a formation bombing on the Japanese consulate, military ships, and many of our bases. We fired back as well and drove them off. However, all of Shanghai City was thrown into turmoil as the Chinese military planes launched airstrikes even over the city's demilitarized zones. The Chinese military planes also launched a bombing campaign over the entertainment districts in the city, filled with several thousands of Chinese and foreign civilians. It was reportedly said that 940 people were killed and 1,400 others were injured because of this catastrophic bombing.
day of national consecration. And I am certain that on this day, my fellow Americans expect that on my induction into the presidency, I will address them with a candor and a decision which the present situation of our people impels. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance.
He opposed the alliance with Germany and Italy. Because of his position, Yamamoto was targeted by an assassin. The Minister of the Navy, Mitsumasa Yonai, worried about Yamamoto's stance. So he dispatched Yamamoto as Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Fleet. Ironically, history led Yamamoto, who insisted on avoiding war against the United States, to elaborate the plan of operations to fight the U.S. as Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Fleet.
昭和16年9月、東京の海軍大学校でハワイ攻撃の図上演習が行われた。日本とアメリカが戦争状態となり、開戦冒頭、日本海軍の機動部隊がアメリカ領のハワイを攻撃するという想定であった。
始めて2日目にですね、2日目にもう20日まで待つまでもない2日目に赤城、加賀、宗龍、昼4隻がね、皆使えなくなっちゃったんですわ。やられちゃった。
やられちゃったんですか。
2隻はね、ボーンと強沈しちゃった。で、1隻はね、大破って言っても動けなくなっちゃって、もう1隻は中破って言ってもうただひょろひょろ歩くだけになっちゃったんですよ。だから演習になりませんがね。じゃあ演習の研究ならんからまた勢力復活しましたけどね。
勢力復活してからはどうだったんですか。
もう覚えていませんね。それからあとは。
ハワイ攻撃を構想したのは連合艦隊司令長官山本五十六であった。図上演習の結果にもかかわらず山本の決意は変わらなかった。